my day, we didn't have all these gay people. Well, that's not exactly true. Gay people have always existed, but because homosexuality was illegal in many countries until about the 1960s, when very slowly countries began to legalize it, even though gay people existed, you didn't exactly know who they were. Even prominent figures in society, if they were gay, you probably didn't know that because it was very illegal. It was like trying to find a specific flower in a field of them without knowing exactly what you're looking for. It's not until someone tells you, oh, hey, you're looking for a violet, that you might finally find one. So today, I will be telling you what to look for in history to find queer people and what they did for our society. Which is why the first thing I'll be talking about is queer people in history and their impact on society, as well as how they found each other. The second thing I'll be talking about is the horrors faced by homosexual men in concentration camps during Nazi Germany. And the third thing I'll be talking about is the status of criminalization of homosexuality around the world. So first of all, if gay people existed, then how did they find each other when being gay was illegal? Well, the first word used was lavender. Lavender was used in the homosexual communities of England and France to signify that someone was gay. And that's how they found each other without having to fear social stigmas or legal consequences. Later, the term was used in lavender marriage, which is a marriage between a man and a woman, or at least one, but perhaps both of the parties are homosexual or bisexual. Having a heterosexual relationship allowed these homosexual people to go around without having to fear legal consequences or, once again, social stigmas. This practice is often best done in pairs, when you have two homosexual couples marry each other in heterosexual ways, and the couples are just really close friends. Yeah, well, and lavender isn't the only purple flower that it has significant meaning in queer history. The second purple flower is violets. Violets were given by women to other women in the early 1900s to signify their love and affection, and it was commonly used specifically in colleges. But where does lavender come from? Well, it came from a poet known as Sappho. Sappho was a poet who was born around 600 BCE in ancient Greece. Sappho was widely known as one of the greatest poets of all time. In fact, her poetry was some of the first to be put to music. Words, music, put together, sounds a lot like contemporary music today, and that's because it is. And I would say that this is Sappho's greatest contribution to modern society because she helped found what eventually turned into contemporary music of lyrics with music. Because of her lyricality, that's why most of her pictures and statues are depicted with her holding a lyre. Now, how do we know that she was gay? Well, because most of her poetry revolves around her romantic love for other women, specifically talking about Athens, an Athenian princess, and Aphrodite, a Greek goddess of love. Because of this, it is widely assumed that she was a lesbian, which leads to her second greatest contribution to society, the word lesbian. Quite literally, because the island she lived on was the island of Lesbos, which is where we get the word lesbian today. We also get another word from her, the word sapphic, which means lesbian love, but also includes bisexual, pansexual people, and non-binary people, and so on. This is her second greatest contribution to modern society. The second person I will be talking about today is Albert D.J. Cashier. We don't know much about his childhood as he was a very secretive person, but what we do know is that he traveled to Illinois from Ireland around 1862. He enlisted in the army when Abraham Lincoln issued a call for soldiers for the Civil War, and he enlisted as a man. Now for context, Albert Cashier was born female. And you might be thinking, weren't there many women who enlisted in the Civil War as men? Well, yes, during this specific war, 500 to 1,000 women did this, including this woman right here. But the difference is that Albert D.J. Cashier lived as a man both before and after the war was over. In fact, he lived as a man for a total of 53 years, which is a long time for just enlisting in the army. Because of this, it is widely assumed that Albert D.J. Cashier would have today identified as a transgender man. Now the third person I will be talking about today is Alan Turing. Alan Turing was born in England, and he was a cryptographer and computer scientist. He was also a mathematician. What he did most for society was creating the first supercomputer, known as the Turing machine, and it led to all modern inventions of computers that we know, use, and rely on today, such as phones and computers. Now, what he's most well known for, however, is his work on the Enigma code during World War II. For those of you who do not know, the Enigma code was a code created by the Nazis, and it was used to transmit all of their messages. All of them. In fact, this is an Enigma machine, which is what they used to encrypt all these messages. Now, the thing with Enigma was if you knew how to crack it, you could literally find out everything that the Nazis were saying and therefore be able to attack them much better. But the issue was that Enigma has over 20 quintillion possibilities that change every 24 hours, making it nearly impossible for human minds to crack. Alan Turing realized this, and because of this, he decided that the only thing he could do was create a machine to combat a machine. And so he did. It was a machine called the bomb, which you can see here. This is the inside of it. The bomb was able to crack Enigma much faster than any human could, and in the end, it led to Enigma being cracked every single day. This led World War II to end approximately 2 to 3 years earlier than it could have ended, saving over 14 million lives, historians estimate. Now, despite all of his work on Enigma, he was still convicted of homosexuality in 1952. And in 1954, he committed suicide by cyanide poisoning. He was given the choice when he was convicted of going to prison or going on chemical castration, something that falsely claimed to cure homosexuality. So he chose chemical castration. And ultimately, it led to his death and suicide. In 2013, the Queen pardoned him of his crime of being a homosexual, as it was realized that it was not a crime, and that he had done great work for society, and he did not deserve to die from it. And in 2021, his face was put on the British £50 as an honor of his contributions to society. It cannot erase his conviction or his death, but it is a step forward in recognizing queer people's accomplishments. Now, many people have probably seen this pink triangle. Today, it is used as a symbol of protest within the LGBTQ community. But it was originally used in concentration camps. When one went to a concentration camp, they were given an upside-down triangle with different colors representing different things. For example, red meant a political prisoner, green meant a criminal, and purple meant a Jehovah's Witness. They often had letters on their different triangles to signify where the person came from. For example, P for someone from Poland, or B for someone from Belgium. And if the person was a Jew, they had a yellow triangle underneath to create a star. Now, everyone who was in concentration camps was treated horrifically, but often pink triangle inmates were treated even worse. They were forced to undergo chemical castration, which once again falsely claimed to cure homosexuality. They were also given lethal labor, and they underwent serious experiments that often were fatal. But perhaps the worst part about this all is that even after the Allies liberated the concentration camps and set everyone free, they had a rule that said that anyone imprisoned for racial, religious, or political reasons would be released, but that common criminals would remain incarcerated. Under their laws, homosexuality was a crime, and therefore, pink triangle inmates remained imprisoned even after everyone else was released, meaning that their nightmare was not over. The world has changed so much since the 1940s, and we have progressed greatly in matters of homosexuality, but there are still many places around the world where being gay is still illegal. In 65 countries, you will receive a fine or imprisonment for being gay. But in 6 countries, you will receive the death penalty, with another 5 making the death penalty death by stoning. This is completely inhumane that this can still happen in 2026, but it does in many places around the world. So why do I tell you all of this? Well, the main reason is because our history, queer history, is constantly being erased from textbooks and websites, news articles, government websites, etc. And so the only way that we can guarantee this information to live on information that we need to know is through word of mouth. So that's why I tell you this today. So no matter how much information gets erased, and no matter how many steps we take backwards, we will still never forget everything that was done. Because we can't forget this history, because it is devastating and terrible, but it needs to be known. So I tell you this today so that we may never forget. Thank you.